Hi joyful bakers, welcome to Erica's Joyful Oven. Today I'm making some eggless hot cross buns, so let's get started. Into the bowl of a stand mixer fitted with the dough hook attachment, I'll add 1 cup of evaporated milk. You can also use full cream milk. I'll also add half cup of granulated sugar and 4 teaspoons of instant yeast. Mix this together on a low speed just until it's combined, and I'll let this sit for 5 minutes until the yeast is activated and it's nice and frothy. Once the yeast has proofed, I'll add in half cup of room temperature unsalted butter. You really want to make sure that the butter is nice and softened so it's going to mix into the dough easily. I'll also add in half cup of heavy whipping cream, and in place of the eggs, this is going to make the hot cross buns soft and spongy. I'll add in also a 1/4 teaspoon of freshly grated nutmeg, 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, and a 1/2 teaspoon of ground spice, together with 4 cups of all-purpose flour that has been sifted and 3/4 teaspoon of salt. Mix this together on a low speed just until it's combined, and of course you can find my recipe in the description above the video on Facebook and in the description below the video on YouTube. Just as the dough begins to pull together, I'll add in half cup of chopped raisins and 3 tablespoons of finely chopped mixed peel, and I'll mix the dough together now on a low speed. It's going to take about 3 minutes until the dough is soft and elastic. Of course, if you don't have a stand mixer, that's okay. You can mix this dough in a large mixing bowl by hand, and once the dough pulls together, knead it on a lightly floured surface until it's soft and elastic. This dough is quite similar to a sweet dough, and because of all of the butter and ingredients that we've added in, it's going to make some spongy, delicious hot cross buns. Turn the dough onto a lightly floured surface, and this dough really doesn't need a lot of flour because, as you can see, although it's soft, it's not very sticky. So I'm going to knead this dough by hand just for about a minute until it forms a smooth surface. Let me just emphasize again that this dough is going to be quite soft. You do not want to add too much flour at this stage because it's going to dry out the hot cross buns after it bakes. Add the dough into an oiled bowl, and you want to cover this with plastic wrap and let it rest in a warm place for about 45 minutes until it has doubled in size. Once the dough has risen, I'll turn it onto a lightly floured surface and I'll cut it into 12 equal pieces. Sometimes I like to use a kitchen scale just to make sure that all of the buns are the same size. I'll gently roll each piece of dough into a bowl, making sure that the surface is nice and smooth, and I'll place the seam side down. You can also pull the edges of the dough together to make a little seam. Place the seam side down, roll the dough in a circular motion until it forms a smooth surface. And I'll place the buns in a 9 by 13 inch baking pan that I've lined with some parchment paper. You want to place them evenly spaced out about 1 inch apart. And these take just about 20 to 25 minutes covered lightly with plastic wrap until it's risen and doubled in size. I'll bake these hot cross buns in a preheated oven at 350 degrees for 30 to 35 minutes until it's golden at the top. Before the buns come out of the oven, I'll prepare a glaze using half cup of granulated sugar, 3 tablespoons of water, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. I'll bring this to a boil on a medium heat just until the sugar has dissolved, and I'll set this aside until the buns have finished baking. So here's the hot cross buns fresh from the oven. It smells so heavenly with all of those spices. I'll now add that glaze that we've prepared, lightly brushed on top of the buns, and that's going to give the top a nice glossy finish, and it's going to keep it soft and spongy. As irresistible as these look and smell, I'll let them cool for 10 minutes while I prepare the icing that's going to make the signature crosses. Into a mixing bowl, I'll add 1 cup of icing sugar that has been sifted and 2 to 3 tablespoons of milk. I'm using here some whipping cream, but you can also use full cream milk. You can even use water. You may want to add your liquids gradually as you mix, and that's because it's quite easy for the icing sugar to absorb the liquids. You can stop adding liquids once you've reached your desired consistency. I like to make the icing a little bit thick and slightly runny, and that's going to give me some solid crosses on the hot cross buns. Add your icing into a piping bag. I'm using here a Wilton 44 piping tip. You can also add your icing into a Ziploc bag and cut the corner off. And now I'll pipe across on top of the buns. I like to pipe a straight line from one end to the next. This just makes it easier. Or because it's Easter and the family is all together, you can let the kids have fun with this. Because the best part of baking is baking with your family and creating special moments like this. So these are the finished hot cross buns. They smell so good with the nutmeg and the cinnamon and the spice. My house smells amazing, and the crosses have almost finished setting. You can see that the top is nice and glossy. You can let this cool at room temperature for about half hour so that the crosses have time to set. But at my house with this aroma, these aren't gonna last long, so let me dig in and show you what the inside looks like. Here you can see how easily these buns separate because they're so soft and spongy, and as I tear it open, just look at how soft and spongy the insides are. It's quite moist. The heavy whipping cream maintains the color, texture, and taste of the hot cross buns in place of the eggs. You can see those speckles of the cinnamon and spices. It smells so divine. I can't wait for you guys to try this recipe. The raisins are great in these buns. You can even add currants and some glazed cherries if you wanted to. But what makes these buns so special and tasty are those little bits of mixed peel that, when combined with all of those spices, make these buns quite exquisite and the best hot cross buns that I've ever had. I do hope you guys enjoyed today's recipe. Be sure to message me or leave a comment below. Let me know if you guys try it and what you think. For more of my recipes, you can find me at facebook.com/joyfuloven and youtube.com/joyfuloven. I wish you guys a happy, safe, and blessed Easter. And until next time, happy baking!